Hello and welcome back to the Neurospiritual Awakening podcast with Dr. Val. I am your host, and today I have got a special guest on the show, and it's someone who I have known for a very long time. In fact, I think since grade nine,
Yeah,
basically since we were 14 years old. So I don't know, you do the math, but it's been a moment, right?
it has. It has over 20 years.
Exactly. So, Brennan,
Yeah.
welcome to the show. Just really thanks for accepting my invite to come on and talk about your journey, and the different kinds of, you know, awakenings that you have experienced that you're willing to share with us.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Um, all right. Well, like always, I let my guests introduce themselves. I know it kind of puts the onus onto you, but I think you know yourself best at this stage. So, if you want to say a few words, please do.
Yeah. So my name is Brandon Dawson-Jarvis. I am based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Um, we went to high school together, and at this point in my life, and I guess what brought me to reconnect with you after so many years is my experience um, from early childhood to mistakes that I've made to ended up in prison and then um, finding yoga and how yoga put me on a path of self-discovery and yeah, just evolution, I guess, is how I would sum it up.
Hmm. So amazing. And I've heard a little bit of your story before. You might need
Hmm.
to remind me, and I know you've shared it in a lot of different spaces and places. And what from what you just shared before we hit the record button, you're now working in a space where you're like supporting others from your own experience. So I think that's just
Exactly.
really beautiful.
Yeah, so in my 9 to 5, essentially people who there's a program in Quebec where if you're a first time offender and your charges are minor charges, you can come to our program. And the section that I work in is for black men specifically, or sorry, black people specifically. We just have more male cases than female. Um, and we do a whole reconstruction of identity. That's what we really try to focus on, where we'll do yoga, meditation, self-esteem workshop, emotional regulation workshop, and yeah, just try to expand the individual's not only consciousness but what they see themselves as, and try to have them understand that they're a lot more powerful than they might believe.
Totally. I mean, literally rewiring the neural pathways. And I know you know what my workshop on the neuroscience of yoga is all about because you invited me
Mm-hmm.
to do it at quite maybe 5, 6 years ago. But
Yep.
if you recall, yoga and meditation are the fastest way to cause rewiring, brain rewiring. So I think you're spot on there. I think sometimes a few hours is enough to literally alter something, or at least have people understand that who they know themselves to be is just a neural pathway. And
Yeah.
hey, you can rewire that. And as you say, believe in something else. Like if
Exactly.
you think there's this version of you, that's just one loop. There's all
Exactly.
the, yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I'm so thrilled that it is the most efficient way to do it. It really, really is. So, I'm stoked.
Yeah. And what's really amazing is by the beginning of the process, um, many of the participants are really reluctant. Many of them have never tried yoga. And even for me, when I first heard about it, I just didn't feel like I belonged in the space. And by the end of the program, They're asking where they can go take classes, and they just want to continue on that path and that journey. And yeah, super excited for them.
So good. And you never know, like, the ripple effect that it has, right? We'll never know.
Yeah.
We just never know. So, wow. Okay, well, let me rewind a little bit. Why don't we talk about your one of the main or the biggest awakening processes you have thus far experienced? You can pick one. We could talk about, as many as you like. Um, and that's it. Let's just start there because I know. Anyway, I'll just shut up. You tell me, and then and then we'll talk some more.
So I get there's one main one, but it's stretched over a period of time and kind of into two parts, if that makes sense. So it started with a car accident. Nothing major. It was just like a little fender bender. There was no damage to the cars. But what ensued is an argument out of impulse and road rage. And so, long story short, is this guy hits me from behind, and we both get out the car. And I look for damages, and there's no damages to the car. So I'm like, okay, getting ready to turn around and get back in the car and go where I'm going. And then he starts yelling and cursing. And that just triggers me. And at that point, discipline is a very far thought. It's not part of my vocabulary. Um, so we start arguing. It escalates. It turns physical. He then decides to go call the police. And I had just come out of prison a few months before that. And so this concept of calling like being in prison culture, like you handle things amongst each other, and there's no involvement
Mm.
of the law or anything like that. So when he says that, it clicks to me. I'm like, oh yeah, like people do that. Like it's normalized here, like back in society. So the police come, and since I had just gotten out, there's a part of my sentence that I'm doing in the community as reintegration. So I'm still on parole. So my margin of error is very small at this point. The police run my name, they see all of the stuff, and so they send me back to prison.
Gosh.
And here's rock bottom for me. I'm so confused. I'm like, how is this possible? Like, I'd like to think I'm not, like I wasn't out doing anything wrong, quote unquote. Um, like I was doing my best to try to stay out of trouble. I'm like, I went to university and all of the stuff. I graduated. I was working. So all these things that like, this is the identity that I had of myself, which is doesn't really equate to the identity of the people that I've observed while I was inside. So here I am, just I guess a lack of humility. Just like, why am I here? I don't belong. Like I don't. Yeah, I don't belong here. Like I'm above this.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, but also, again, rock bottom. How did I end up coming back? And things were starting to be put into place. Like I said, I started to work. I'm getting my footing back. I'm seeing my friends and family again, and lo and behold, here I am. I have to call my mom, my sister, my grandmother, all these like pillars that supported me throughout the initial time that I was in, to tell them that I'm back again for no good reason. Like I could have just ignored this guy and went about my business. Um, and so about a week's times pass, and I'm in my cell, just like feeling sorry for myself, not really interacting with anybody, not really, maybe going outside for walks during yard or whatever have you. And I get this thought to myself. I'm like, I'm gonna come out of here eventually. Like, I'm gonna be released. And I saw my father and the quality of life that he has. And he has been going back and forth within the system since he was probably 18. So
Mm.
for the majority of his life, he's just been getting in trouble, getting in trouble, getting in trouble. And like I said, I see the quality of life that he has, and that is not something that I wanted for myself. Um, and so I have the thought that I'm gonna be released eventually. And so how do I make sure that I do not end up coming back again? And that was a very big pill to swallow because I was always very um like I would always criticize him. I was always what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, just critical of him and his lack of ability to learn from his mistakes. But lo and behold, I find myself in the same situation. So if we backtrack a little bit, the first time that I was in prison, I had asked to speak to psychology, and I had a first meeting with them where I was able to discuss a lot of the trauma and experiences that I had growing up. And after that initial meeting, I felt a lot lighter because I feel like that was the first time that I was really able to open up about my experience, at least to a professional. And after the meeting, I asked when our second meeting was going to be because I'm like, okay, we're making good leeway here. And she asked me if I was suicidal, and I said no. And she said, well, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see you because we have our hands full with all of the guys who are suicidal. So I said, okay, um, I go through the system and I come out. And like I said, I'm on parole. So I asked my parole officer, I was like, listen, I went through some stuff early on in life. I went through a lot of stuff within those walls and I'm not doing well. Uh, Can I speak to somebody? And she tells me there's a 6-month waiting period. And I say, okay, I was very disappointed because I feel like there's a lot of resources to get people inside and very little resources to help them while they're there or even help them when they get out. Um, so jumping back to current point where I'm inside for the second time and I have this moment where I'm like, I want to make sure that I never come back here. So I decide to kind of do a deep dive by myself. Um, this guy comes up to me and he says, I like the way you do your time. You're super quiet, peaceful, you're not causing no trouble. So here's a TV. And in prison, TV is like the equivalent to gold. Like it takes your mind out of there. You're able to stay up to date with things, watch whatever movies, sports, news, all this stuff. So I thank him, but I asked him for a pen and paper. And he was confused because he's like, I just gave you a TV. Like, why do you want a pen and paper? And he then tells me, you can either ask somebody that goes to school or go to the library. And I say, that's a great idea. So I go down to the library, get the pen and paper, head back to my cell. And for the next 2 weeks, every waking moment, I was writing, shower, ate, or writing. That was it. I left my cell to shower, eat, but I immediately came back and I was just writing my whole story from my first memory up until that point. And this is where it starts to move beyond the 3D world because at one point my mind started racing. Like when I was slept, my dreams were super vivid. When I was awake, my mind was racing. And what I could describe it as is if you picture a ping pong table and a ball going back and forth, okay?
Mm.
Now imagine there's like 300 balls going back and forth. That's what I would equate my mind to as that point.
Mm,
And then there was like a sort of like this whirlwind or tornado that threw me out of it. And then I started to observe these two voices that were speaking to each other, and they were arguing. And one voice was saying, the only reason why we're here is because that guy called the police. He shouldn't have called the police. And then the other voice was like, well, no, he's within his rights to call the police. And then this voice would say, well, the police are racist and, they didn't even give you a chance to explain your story. And then the other one would say, well, they're just doing their job. Like, that's their job. They ran your name, they saw their information. They didn't go beyond their power. Like, they were within their rights to charge you and send you back to prison. Well, it's your parents' faults for everything that they did. Well, why aren't they here? Like, why are you here and they're not here? Well, it's this person's fault and that person's fault, you know? And the second voice always had a rebuttal. So then I said, okay, well, if it's not the guy's fault for hitting me, it's not my parents' fault, it's not the police's fault, it's not society's fault, like, whose fault is it? And then the voice said, well, it's your fault. And at that moment, it's like I was still the observer, and I observe my body putting down the pen and paper,
mm,
getting up, walking to the TV, turning the TV on to max volume, and it's as if my body knew that it was going to have a really big release,
mm,
because what I could describe next was like this cloud of like this dark cloud of energy that just came out of my chest. And at first I was having a heart attack. Like, it was so painful, and I was like yelling. I was yelling. I dropped to the ground. I tried to stand back up. I
mm.
couldn't. And by the time it subsided, I was finally able to get up. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I could never tell anybody that that just happened to me, because they're going to think I'm crazy. But it honestly, like, it felt like an exorcism. Like, I just felt like this evil entity, like, just came out, and it did not want to go. It was fighting to stay in its host body.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was able to release it, and I came out of prison shortly after that, and I fell into a deep depression. I was never clinically diagnosed, but I feel like I'm still able to understand and recognize the signs of depression.
Yes.
And so I was just bedridden for like a good year. Didn't want to go outside. It could have been a beautiful summer day, wanted to stay in bed, slept all the time, didn't want to see anybody. And for the first time in my life, I felt guilt and shame. And I really understood what I did, and that the fact that I put myself in harm's way and danger. There's a lot of people that don't make it out of prison. Like, they don't survive for whatever overdose, violence, whatever have you. Um, and I put myself in that environment. And if somebody asked me at that point, like, do you love yourself? I would have said, yeah, for sure. In hindsight, I don't know if you can, maybe it's relative. But if you're gonna put yourself in that environment, there's a lot of room for self-love, if that makes sense. Um, and I feel like I was very far from that threshold, that point where I would say, like, yes, I love myself. Um, so in bed, super depressed, and my then partner came up to me, and for a few days before, she would come home from work, and she's like, "Oh, you're in bed again," and start like bitching and complaining, for lack of better words. But one day she came up to me, and she was so kind, and she was like, I think you should try yoga. And then I said, I don't think black people do yoga. Like, I don't think men do yoga. I've been asking for professional help here. Like, I need like a psychologist or a therapist. What is stretching and breathing gonna do for me? And then I heard a little voice say, like, listen, buddy, like we're struggling here. Like we have nothing to lose.
She's throwing you a lifeline. Take it.
Exactly. Like we have nothing to lose. And like the barrier of entry, there was no barrier entry. Like I was working at a gym at that point. Um, they had yoga at lunchtime every day. Like all I had to do was leave the office, go down to the gym for lunch, and then maybe come back to my desk and eat lunch after or before, whatever have you. And it was free and like everything was just like there for me. So I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to try yoga. So I go on Monday, and so now we're easing into part two. So I go Monday and I see on the schedule that it says beginner. I'm like, okay, I was really into weight training at that point. So I would work out a little bit before and I would go to the class. And it was super easy. No notes, just, did the class, left. I go back the Tuesday and I look at the schedule and it says intermediate to advanced. And I was like, oh, how hard could this be? So I do my workout and I go to class. And at the beginning of class, the teacher says, okay, I want you to choose an intention for your practice. And I say, okay, like in my mind, I'm like, what's an intention? And she says, an intention could be a deeper sense of peace, joy, live in the present moment, or become the best version of yourself. And I feel like I had that as a child, and then it was taken away from me from my parents and, other experiences that I had. So just to give the audience a little snippet into the childhood, like I said, my father went back and forth within the system. He was addicted to substances. My mom has addiction issues as well. She was very neglectful. There was domestic violence between the two. There was violence um, as coded as discipline towards myself and my sister. My father left when I was around 14, 13, 14, which kind of prompted me to become the man of the house. My mom went into depression. Again, that's where her neglect came into play. And then it kind of trouble started to compile after that. But I always tried to get back to that version of myself, you know? And so when she said that, I was like, this is resonating with me. How do I get to that? And so we start the class, Warrior One, Warrior Two, all of these different
Warrior
asanas.
3, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
I'm
of the
with you.
warriors. And it's not hot yoga, but I am sweating, having trouble breathing. I see this woman in the corner, older woman, looks like she's dancing, looks graceful. I could barely touch my toes, huffing and puffing here. I'm like, why is this so hard? And then my mind starts going, why do I live in Canada? It's -20 outside. I don't want to go outside. It's cold. I don't want to go back to work this afternoon. If I make it home before my then partner, I'm gonna have to cook. If I don't cook, she's gonna come in bitching and complaining. And it's just going on. I don't want to walk my dog. It's cold outside. Once I get in, I just want to stay in. And then she says, take a child's pose and come back to your intention. And that's where the breaker switch went on. I was like, oh my God, like, look what you're complaining about. Like, you don't want to go back to work. Like, you have a job. Why are you complaining? Like, this is part of the job. You have to work. Like, Canada's a great country to live in. You know what I mean? Like, there's pros and cons anywhere, but overall, it's a good country, solid country. Um, when you were in prison, if anybody asks you, would you complain about like cooking and sharing a meal with a person that was supporting you throughout prison, would you complain about it? And I would say never in a million years, but here I am complaining about it. Um, so on one hand, I say that I wanted peace, joy, live in the present moment, become the best version of myself. And on the other hand, I'm just complaining, 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 complaining. And so immediately after class, I don't go back to work, but I run home and then I start meditating. And I'm taking inventory of all of my thoughts throughout the time where I was depressed. Oh, you ruin your life. You're never going to be happy. You put your life at risk. You put other people's life at risk. You hurt family, all of this stuff. And then I'm like, well, okay, what's true and what's not true? You ruin your life. You're never going to be happy. Absolutely not true. So let's get rid of that and reconstruct those thoughts. There's still plenty of time. Yes, it was hard at some points. Yes, mistakes were made, but we still got a lot of living to do. And we can take those experiences, add some reflection, turn it into wisdom so that we can move forward and change that quality of life. Um, you put your life at risk. Yes. Okay. Can we forgive ourselves? There's a lot of shame and guilt attached to being in prison, but there's no expiry date for when you can let go of that shame and guilt. Um, and so we could do that right now. Boom, boom, boom. Let's let it go. Move on. So I did that with all of those thoughts. And and then yeah, from there I just wanted to share yoga because I feel like it is so powerful and it helped to say that it helped me or changed my life would be an understatement. Um like I'm very happy with the man that I am today, with the father that I am today, and I feel like I could attribute a lot of that to yoga. Um, the audience didn't hear about our catching up, but yes. So I have a child today. He's 6, and I love him to bits. And my if I was not if I didn't have a certain level of consciousness and awareness, I feel like I would just be a product or repeating a lot of what my parents did because that's kind of where things were going. Like I was just like
That's normally what happens.
exactly. So I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, you're a lot of your father going back and forth and the depression and stuff like that, the neglect, the not taking care of yourself is a lot of your mother.
Mm.
And I love my parents. Um, and I was able to forgive them. And so we had a heart to heart. We spoke about things and which made me have compassion and understanding for them. Um, and also helped me kind of forgive them, which in turn was the biggest gift that I was able to give to myself because holding on to that was very detrimental to everything, just my whole
Painful, just
life.
painful. Hey, just painful.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I felt very hollow after that second time in prison when I don't know what it was that entity had left.
Yes.
And so I wanted to rebuild myself. So in that forgiving, in changing those thoughts in my mind and stuff like that, I was like, okay, who do you want to be? Um, how do you want to live? And yeah, I just kind of looked at people throughout history that were inspiring, and I was like, okay, I like how this person does this. I like how this person does that. So I took a little bit of this, made my own little recipe, and
Mm.
and yeah, happy with the results.
Wow. I'm happy with I like literally transformed my whole life and the life of the people around me, but I'm pretty happy. Hey,
Yeah.
that's an understatement. So I was going to interrupt you like 5 billion times. I know I like to over exaggerate, but I just wanted to kind of, let you say your piece for the lack of a
Mhm.
better word. But before I say whatever I was going to say, you may not want to share it, but how did you get into the prison for the first time? I just It's juicy. I've never had someone like that on the podcast before. I had someone
Yeah,
else.
of course, no problem. And honestly, like whenever I share, that's kind of like people's thought as well. Um, so yes, so father left. I felt like I was bearing the weight of being the man of the house, the provider, all this stuff. Um, and so I started stealing, and it started very trivial. Started in high school, very trivial things. Started with food because I didn't want to go hungry. We went to a school that finished later than other schools.
4:20,
And
mate. We
then
finished at 4:20.
4:20. So we started at 8:20, ended at 4:20. And then you add in basketball or sports extracurriculars. And then you add in the teenager, growing teenager, burning thousands of calories a second. Coming home to no food, just the frustration um was like just huge. And so I would just go out, start stealing, give my sister food, get stuff for lunch and stuff like that. Then it escalated to like clothes and things of that nature. And then just took off from there. Anything that I could get my hands on, I was stealing or selling. But again, I never wanted to be that. I didn't take joy in it. I actually hated doing it. It gave me such a heavy feeling. Um, and I made it okay by saying there was no way around it. Like there's no help. I don't know who to turn to. But again, I always wanted to be that peaceful, joyful, like honest version. Um, so I went on to, university and CJP in university. Took disciplines to try to understand myself, psychology, criminology, all that stuff. Um, just a little side note, I've never learned so much about myself or just human beings more than in the yoga class. Um, but in university, I got a job at a financial institution. And in my first week of work, the place was robbed and it seemed super easy. And so I put together a plan to rob the bank with a couple of individuals. And it was successful in the sense that we got the money, not successful in the sense that I thought that it was going to solve all of my problems. And it just put an accent, like it just accentuated it. Like it made me so confused. I was like, well, I have money. This is what people die for, kill themselves for. Like this is society says that if you have a lot of this, you're gonna be happy. Um, and for me at that point in my early 20s, the amount of money that we got, uh, I should have been happy. But I was even more angry and frustrated and confused than I've ever been. Um, and yeah, so that's how I ended up getting the initial sentence.
You got caught.
And I
Did you get caught robbing the bank or no? I'm not. What happened?
no, 8 months after, I thought I had gotten away with it.
Right.
8 months after, I get a knock at the door, SWAT team. Yeah,
No. Oh
big
no.
guns, big guns. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like
Oh,
20 of them.
that's so traumatic. But also, like 8 months later, man, that's like I would
Eight
have.
months later, eight
What?
months later, I thought I was
Karma is a
gone.
bitch. I mean, I know sometimes it takes lifetimes for something to come back around, but still, eight
Yeah,
months. My goodness.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
All right. Well, now we've got that part. Thank you. So it's like a three-parter. My goodness.
Hmm.
But literally, I have so many, like everything that you shared, I can um, envision or see through the filter of neuroplasticity, like how the brain is set in certain ways and then rewires itself. The moment you like how you behaved in your cell and all the writing. I mean, that was like a spiritual thing for sure. Like the
Yeah.
the nonstop writing. I mean, mindfulness, right? Journaling, mindfulness. It has the
Yeah.
brain rewire itself, and then the entity removal. That was definitely a negative attachment that has left your body. But it's like there's an aspect of the healer or the self healer that you are, that you were able to do that because people go to. Oh, there's a stupid fly. People go to, fucking Australia, but people go to people go people go
Should
to,
come
like
to Canada.
I know. No, no. So, people no. People go to, like, spiritual healers, blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
to remove these. I mean, I have done that, I
Yes.
had entities, attachments removed by, like, a
Yes.
person. But then you, like, he ultimately you did that. You did that to yourself. I mean, that's pretty powerful. Um,
Yeah.
that's one thing. And then also, like, yeah, the girlfriend at the time was the messenger with the yoga, but where did that message come from? Again, we can say that, hey, it came from some
Yeah.
from a higher source, obviously, but you were available to hear the message. That's the thing. Like, from everything that you shared, I'm getting that you were open and available. And yeah, there was, like, hesitation or maybe like judgment or whatever, but hey, you still took the action. And my question is, because for a lot of the people that are listening, they may be like, tired of looping. Because you could have kept on looping. You could have said that, yoga, yeah, nice. Or gone to a couple of classes and been like, yeah, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that happens to a lot of people. So my question to you is, well, what's the difference? I mean, neuroscientifically, I'll tell you, the difference is repetition. Once you form a new pathway, you've got to repeat it. You've
Yeah.
got to practice the yoga and the meditation over and over and over again to solidify your new quote unquote identity, ways of being, acting, and behavior to not revert to the old pathways. Okay. But at the level of your being, how did you do that?
I think so. What is kind of fascinating to me or sticks out is that it kind of took hold after that second class. So Monday, again, nothing clicked. Tuesday clicked super hard. Wednesday, the class was intermediate to advanced, and it was even harder than the Tuesday class. And I was still huffing and puffing. Still couldn't touch my toes. But in my mind, I was so happy. I was just like, this is okay. I'm still going to choose the peace, the joy. Like, I don't have to compare myself to others. I don't have to, complain about things. I don't have to, like, I can still stay grateful. Um, but I think what I would say, because if I didn't do that journaling and take that time in prison, I think it would have been a lot of the same thing. I think I would have went to class, okay, yeah, it's cool, whatever, and not gone back. But I
Yeah.
had the space. I had the space to listen deeper than because so getting a little spiritual here, whatever left didn't want to leave.
Mm,
And its voice sounds the same as other voices. Like every voice in my head sounds the same.
mm,
Even if it's a contradictory thing, even if they're arguing with each other, it sounds like me.
mm,
And so when you have a thought, oh, I should go to the gym. I really been saying that I really want to go to the gym. I want to start working out. Like it's January and this is my New Year's resolution and let me go to the gym. And then you have another voice that says, "Oh, well, it's cold outside. It's a snowstorm. It's dark. Like, how good would it be to just stay in, turn on Netflix and just chill, maybe tomorrow or maybe on the weekend or, those two voices, they sound alike. Like, which one are you going to listen to? Which one are you going to, like, which one has your best interest and which one's louder too? A lot of times, like, when I was growing up, I remember like before I would fight or before I would get into trouble, I would hear a voice that would whisper and say like, "Oh, don't do that." And then another voice would be like, "Do it." And it's like, "Okay, well, I got to do it now because that voice like," and you think it's you, but are you able to step back and observe the voices and what they're saying and then decide which one you want to go with, you know? Like, especially in the heat of the moment, it's like some people say, "Oh, I have a sharp tongue. Like I can't help it. If I get upset, I'll say something that I know I'm gonna regret." But it's like, okay, can you create that space to say like, I want to say this, but I know it's gonna hurt the person. I know I'm gonna regret it. Can I swallow those words instead of letting it come out? Um, so really to answer your question, I would say is and I know a lot of people want to change, but I would say there was such a willingness to change. Like I refused to leave those walls the same as when I came in because like there's nothing worse like for me, in my opinion, that I can think of right now, like one of the worst experiences that I went through is going into prison. You know what I mean? Not even like once you're there. Once you're there, it's like it's not like a bed of roses, but just going there, like you're shackled. You're in a little like paddy wagon that's like it's so small. Like if you're claustrophobic, forget about it. Like you gotta release like all of that. Like you're stripped of your clothes and all of your personal belongings, all this stuff. You have nothing. You're giving like these clothes to wear, and it's just a really not pleasant experience. So again, how do I ensure that I never have to live through that again? So just this deep, deep willingness to change. And then also I would say just radical responsibility. Like just understanding that I created this fucking shitstorm.
Everything,
Like
yeah.
there's nobody else. And I was pointing the finger at everybody else except for me. Like it could have been the bus driver's fault. It could have been our high school principal's fault. It could have
Yeah.
been
It's the weather, right? It
the
was the weather. It was because it was
the
snowing and
the weather.
yeah,
Yeah. The weather and the bus was a minute early and just
yeah, yeah.
everything. Just they didn't have
That's
my shoe size, like everything, like nothing was my fault. Nothing,
yeah,
nothing, nothing.
yeah.
So I would say radical responsibility, like understanding that we are the creator of our experience, as uncomfortable as that might seem. And there might be a voice that tells you absolutely not, like I didn't create X, Y, and Z. Mm,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Like,
But here
look
we
at the
are.
people that, yeah, exactly.
Here
I
we
would
are.
say look at the people that you want to emulate, the people that are getting the results that you want, and understand their psychology, understand how they see the world. Do they take radical responsibility? Do like all this stuff. And there's a lot of people that I look up to it and say like, yeah, I'm the creator of my reality. I'm writing this story. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So,
yeah.
and there's so much power in that. Like to say
Oh,
like, yeah, like I can change that. You know?
totally. I mean, it is like, yeah, that is what I'm hearing is just this like force of will. Like, no, this shit ain't going down no more. I'm literally
Yeah.
rewriting my story, rewiring my brain,
Exactly.
transforming my life, fucking rising out of the however you want to say it. You get the flavor, right? Like it's just like
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
cycle is ending. Um, truly, truly amazing. And another thing I picked up on is, of course, epigenetics, which is the phenomenon of how our environment impacts the expression of our genes. You know, what you were saying
Uh-huh.
with growing up in a household, getting what you got from your parents, you know, me, everybody getting what they get from their parents, their genetics, which comes with certain
Uh-huh.
tendencies, behaviors, addictions, depressive, like, you know, all that
Yes.
also comes from the genes. But then
Yes.
I always say it's 10% genetics, 90% environment, because then the environment, see if you're still within that environment that then supports those kinds of behaviors, very hard to change, right? So what I'm seeing with your story is like you forced your environment, you forced yourself into a new environment. You literally forced yourself like first mentally into a new environment because you were in prison. Now, that's a pretty shitty environment to fucking get healing, you know?
Yep.
So but
Yep.
nonetheless. you started there, you went through your inner hermit time and self-reflection and all that in that shitty environment. You got out and then you created this other environment and have been ever since. No, I kind
Yeah.
of I follow you on socials. I know you've done talks with the
Hmm.
police, with like
Hmm.
large groups of
Yep.
people, sponsorship through
Yep.
Lululemon. Like I was like, ah,
Yep.
Brandon's really fucking altering his environment and it's amazing. I just think the power of our environment um is incredible, but it's also you pulling that towards you, pulling that like you actively
Exactly.
wiring yourself and your brain and whatever, but also you actively altering your environment. And then,
Yeah.
hey, here we go. Here you are now.
And uh, like you hit the nail on the head, and I don't think it's a coincidence. I'm the same, like physically, if you look at me, I'm the same person. Like you've seen me since high school. If you look at me, you're like, oh yeah, that's Brandon. What's really fascinating to me is people that knew me before yoga have a hard time understanding how drastic the change was. And people that knew me after yoga have a hard time comprehending that I could have ever done something to end up in
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah.
But to come back to the environment thing, I think it's like it's something within you. Like there's like externally myself is the same. Like obviously I've aged over the years. Um, but it's really the insides that changed first, and
Mm,
then the outside was a product of that change. So yeah, there's one version of me that
yeah.
created prison,
Yeah.
and then there's another version of me that created the Lululemon sponsorship, the yoga brand, the platform that we had together during COVID where you were giving your speeches and people, coming to that, um, all of this stuff. So it's like, yeah, it really is, it starts with the individual. It starts with the individual. And, it's
Mm,
a lot easier, uh, to, if you're able to come out of being surrounded by rotten apples, that helps. Um, yeah, that's what I would say is just try to stay
totally.
away from yeah, yeah, rotten apples.
Fuck rotten apples. No, I don't. I mean,
Okay.
unless you're making cider or something, and no,
Yeah,
or kombucha, whatever you're into. Right? Um,
there you go.
Yeah. So, but then it is. You're right. Right. Okay. So you're right, and it always is like the chicken or the egg. Is it our internal environment? Of course, then reflects externally. So yes, epigenetics is how our external environment, including things like behaviors around us, impact us at the level of our DNA. But then there's the
Hmm.
initial rewiring that you cause yourself by taking responsibility for, hey, it's my life. I'm in the driver's seat, so I'm going to cause some shit here and it's going to be reflected out here for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
So good. Super fascinating. Well, listen, I think it's good. I mean, I'm just like so excited and thrilled we've had this conversation. And just for the record, although it's public now, how I see you is still the same, like grade nine Brandon. So I know a lot of shit happened, but to me, you're still just Brandon. Like you're this, like, of course, now that we're talking about it in retrospect, you didn't know what I was going through as a teenager. I didn't know this was happening in your household. We were just, grade nine, gen
Yeah,
English class. What's up, right? Like
yeah,
that. And
exactly,
I think that
exactly.
that that like I see you whole and complete as an individual, and just from then, and then there's like we kind of get shattered, pick up the pieces, but at the source
Yeah,
of it, we're still whole, complete, and perfect. So that's how I see you.
exactly. And that's how I see you too.
Thank you. All right. Well, any last messages of wisdom for the listeners before I let you go here, or maybe how they can find you if they want to connect with you? Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah. So, I mean, they can definitely message me on Instagram. My handle is at Brandon Dawson-Jarvis. If they want to email me, my email is brandondawsonjarvis@gmail.com. All one word, no, nothing there, just Brandon Dawson-Jarvis. Um, I want to thank you so much for taking the leap and starting this, creating this platform for people to share and also giving a sense of community to others that might feel like they're alone on this journey, because it can definitely be lonely when you're on this journey of change, especially if other people have this sense of identity of you in their minds. And then when you change that, they're like, whoa, 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 like that's not the version of you that I know. Like, where's this coming from? So yeah, just to let people know that they're not alone on that journey of discovery and growth and yeah, if they need, they can definitely reach out. Would love to discuss.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks again, and thanks to the listeners. I'll pop all the info in the show notes, and until next time.